I wrote a book that is about to be published. The title is The Creativity Choice, and it is asking a question: how do you take your ideas, nurture them, develop them, and what are those strategies and resources you need in order to make ideas not just something in your head that is akin to fantasy, but something that becomes real and has an influence in the real world.
Orbiting 250 miles above, the space station provides us with the ultimate view of planet Earth. From this perspective, we ask our guests to engage with 6 questions that orbit around wonder and stories of hopefulness. For the next few minutes, this is our Wonderspace.
Welcome to the 145th episode of the Wonderspace podcast and our last episode of 2024. My name is Steve Cole, and over the past 4 years I have asked the same 6 questions to amazing people from around the world. Questions that orbit around wonder and stories of hopefulness. We started during the COVID lockdown to enlarge people's vision and perspective and remind us that alongside crisis and emergency are always mind-blowing wonders in the natural world and hopeful stories that have the potential to fuel us and energize us, even in the most challenging of times. Before I introduce our guest this week, here is another 1 Minute Wonder from our friends at Ask Nature, who are part of the Biomimicry Institute.
Most living tissue is soft, and plants, animals, and fungi have all needed to develop ways to provide support and maintain their shape. Many animals do this with hard bone or shells, and many plants use firm woody structures, but soft-bodied creatures take a different tack. Many of them rely on water-filled structures called hydrostatic skeletons that are soft and flexible, but can still provide the strength and stiffness the organism needs. They are particularly common in fungi, young or herbaceous plants such as sunflowers, and in a variety of invertebrates. In animals such as worms and squid, muscles contract against a fluid-filled cavity, generating pressure that helps the body maintain its shape. The surrounding fibers are arranged in a helical pattern, wrapping around the pressurized core like the fibers of a woven basket or a coiled spring. In plants, the young stems of herbaceous species like sunflowers have internal water pressure that allows them to remain upright without woody tissue. Helically arranged fibers in their stems reinforce the plant, preventing the stem from buckling or collapsing under pressure. This configuration offers both flexibility and strength, and it allows the structure to resist deformation when pressure is applied. The variation in materials, collagen in animals, cellulose in plants, demonstrates how different organisms achieve similar mechanical outcomes using the resources available to them.
For this Wonderspace episode, we orbit around New Haven in Connecticut, which is home to our guest, Zorana Ivcevic Pringle. Zorana is a senior research scientist at the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence. She studies the role of emotions and creativity, and the creative process from having an idea to making it happen. I hope you enjoy this orbit with myself and Zorana. Zorana, it's great to have you on board a Wonderspace orbit today. I had an email from one of our previous guests on Wonderspace, Vlad Glavnew, who is head of psychology at Dublin University, as you know, and he nominated you, suggesting that people should know about your outstanding work, but also they should know about a book that's coming out next year that you've written. So Zorana, thanks for being here, and I'm so looking forward to orbiting around our 6 questions with you.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you for the invitation.
So, Zorana, from this imaginary window seat on the space station with this panoramic overview of Earth, our first Wonderspace question is if we could do a fly past over any part of the world that is significant to you, which place, city or country would it be and why?
I love this question and I love flying and I'm a Trekkie, so being in a space station is really inspiring to me. And since we are flying, I am not going to pick one place. I'm going to break the rules a little bit, and I'm going to pick two.
Great.
So we will start looking at Zagreb, Croatia. It's not where I grew up, but that is where I went to college. And that is where I grew as a person. That is where I started developing my deepest interest. It is where I made friends for life. It is where I dreamt and tried to imagine the future. So we are starting there. And as we are flying, we are landing or zooming in to New York City. And again, it's not where I live right now, but if I could live anywhere in the world, it would be there. It's physically feeling the life and the life force. That's how I can only describe it. In a matter of a daily walk, and you walk everywhere, which is wonderful in itself.
Yeah.
You hear more languages than you can recognize, and you see all of humanity and all of human achievement, and it is good. There's some bad too, but it makes me aware of all that humanity is and all its potential, and makes me feel grateful for being human. It is the city of wonder incarnate for me.
That's wonderful. And we are recording this just a few weeks before Christmas. So do you have plans to get over to Croatia at all before Christmas?
Yeah, I am actually going in about 10 days and will be in Zagreb for Advent. And it is one of those European cities with amazing Christmas markets and events and just beautiful feel to it.
Wonderful. So our second question focuses in on you and your story. So Zorana, give us a glimpse into your life story so far with an emphasis on what you're doing currently.
Life story is such a big question.
Yeah.
And where does one start? I oftentimes think how I grew up in a place that is a different place and different time from the here and now. Eastern Europe in the 1980s was truly different, different from what it is now and different where I live now. And that gives you different perspective on life and shapes you in interesting ways that oftentimes are in the background, but sometimes come to the surface, which can be source of interesting insights. And when I look at my life course, I can vividly remember key moments. And I remember my decision-making process when I was considering the course of study and what I wanted to do for a career. And there was a 9th grade English class assignment of kind of think through what you want to do. And I was writing an essay and trying to think through the reasoning. And I always had lots of interests. And I want to believe that in a parallel universe, in one, I'm a historian of early Middle Ages Eastern Europe, and then another one, an astrophysicist, and then another one, historian of science. But in this universe, I decided to go the psychology route, and I became a scholar of creativity, and I find it inspirational, consistently and constantly inspirational. And when I think of other like life events and things that happened in life, I always remember that I was not a born writer. Sometimes people think you are born to do a certain thing, and there are all of these stories about discovering your passion as if it exists in you already. But these are all things we develop, and I distinctly remember, it was in sixth grade, that I decided I want to learn how to write well. And still, I could not imagine that one day I would be editing academic books and being an author of a book for a general audience based on 25 years of my own research. But when you said, emphasis on the present, that's a big thing in my present. I wrote a book that is about to be published. The title is The Creativity Choice. And it is asking a question, not of how we come up with creative ideas, but saying, okay, many people have ideas, but there are many fewer people who actually take them and do something with them. So I'm asking, how do you take your ideas, nurture them, develop them, and what are those strategies and resources you need in order to make ideas not just something in your head that is akin to fantasy, but something that becomes real and has an influence in the real world.
That's wonderful. So you studied the creative process from having an idea to making it happen. I was listening to a brilliant interview recently between Zane Lowe and Chris Martin from Coldplay. And Chris, like many creatives, including people like Elizabeth Gilbert, they talk about trying to remember and capture ideas, words, melodies that come from something external, something that's higher and wider than themselves. And I was just wondering, as an academic, how do you process the mystery of that kind of creative process?
I think that we oftentimes are not aware where our ideas come from.
Yeah.
And those little insights and sparks. And we are trying to make meaning of it because it's hard to pinpoint where they are from. It feels like they are coming from a place of mystery. And I think that kind of meaning making can be deeply and profoundly purposeful for a person who comes to that conclusion. When we look scientifically at the research of where ideas are coming from, we find that it is a little bit less mysterious.
Yeah.
We find that people do certain things to increase the chance of ideas happening. So if we look at great artists or scientists, they surround themselves with objects, with ideas, with things from which sparks can jump. They cannot necessarily pinpoint from which of those things they jumped, but they increase the chance. So if we look at, for instance, the workspace of artists like Picasso, he had multiple studios in different places he lived, and they were full of kind of chaotic places, full of different things that are art pieces of contemporary artists he admired, like Giacometti or Modigliani or Matisse. He had this ongoing conversation with Matisse. They would be sending each other drawings or early sketches of something and then riffing off of each other.
Beautiful. That's so inspiring. So the creativity choice, tell us what you're really hoping for people to get out of this book.
I hope for people to switch from thinking about where we come up with ideas to saying, okay, we have ideas oftentimes, how we do something with them, so that they don't take inspiration as a feeling, but inspiration as an invitation for action. The matter is that doing that action is an act of a choice, and a very difficult choice. It's not just do it. It is not of saying you have to make a choice and then just embark on the process. It is a repeating commitment and recommitment to doing something that is in some way novel or original to some extent, and effective or useful or important and meaningful in the world. And as any other kind of decision-making process, it is profoundly emotion influenced. We have to channel our emotions, those powerful ones that provide inspiration and that provide impetus for action. But also we have to manage them because sometimes they are in our way. And we have to remember and remind ourselves that we are not puppets at the mercy of our feelings. We have agency in relation to them, and we can influence their course. And I want them to think of creativity not as something that you are born with or is this innate trait, but something that we can develop and choose to focus on at any time of our lives.
Brilliant. So good. So Zorana, with your role at Yale and with so many other roles and responsibilities, where is your place of reset or recharge?
For me, travel is a reset, and it pretty much does not matter where we go. I feel that travel puts me out of space and out of time of the everyday routine. And it reminds me to take different perspectives and look at life in different ways. And I think those are the essential ingredients to truly recharge for me.
Yeah, so good. And for you, Zorana, what wonder of the natural world excites you the most?
I love deserts. I find deserts deeply spiritual places, and I visited deserts in the U.S. Southwest and the Badlands National Park and Sahara in Morocco and the desert in Jordan. And every time I marveled at the beauty of the landscape, the colors of the landscape, and the sheer miracle of life. Because these places are so inhospitable, yet life finds a way to emerge and to survive and to exist and thrive.
Wonderful. And out of one of those deserts, which one was the most significant for you?
The Sahara.
Yeah.
The Sahara. We went to Morocco a couple of years ago and had overnight camping in the Sahara. And I am not a morning person. I'm very much not a morning person, but I got up for sunrise, and it was one of the most beautiful experiences in my life.
Amazing. So we have two more questions to go, and our fifth question takes the focus onto someone else and asks, what is your hopeful story that's not your own, about a person, business or non-profit who are doing amazing things for the world? So who would you love to give a shout out to today?
I love this question, and I really want to give shout out to a colleague and a friend, Elif Gokcigdem. I think that people around us have the most power to inspire and move us to action, and for me, that is Elif. She is an art historian by training. She had a rich career in building cultural institutions through corporate initiatives in an unlikely place. And she had a very powerful, personally meaningful, what in psychology we would call a peak spiritual experience. And it profoundly changed her outlook on life. She tried to make sense of the experience. She tried to put words to it. But experiences of deep awe and wonder are very hard to put into words.
Yeah.
The trick is, though, that in a way you have to put them into words if you don't want it to just stay in your head. If you want to create some kind of change in the world because you are moved to do so in such a powerful way, you have to find words. And she became aware of that. And she ended up settling on two words. The first one is empathy.
Yeah.
And she experienced it profoundly for others and for the world at large, beyond just humans. But she didn't leave it there. That's the important bit when you said hopefulness. She didn't just leave it there as her personal experience. She decided to act. And she started a movement that brings together leaders at first, it was in museums and related fields like academia. And she started organizing an annual summit called Designing for Empathy, and how life has a way of making things possible in all the unexpected ways. The first summit was in 2018, and it was with His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And that in itself was an event that then spurred more action. And these annual summits continued ever since, and they grew to not just be focused on museums as institutions that can create change in very important ways, because they are places of profound learning that is not formalized, that is not evaluation-based like schools, for instance. So they can create these wonderful experiences. But she said that it's important for empathy to be a cross-industry value and a cross-industry practice. And she grew her summits and her educational work to be cross-disciplinary. And these gatherings just grew, and they became very experiential, sharing educational experiences that can build empathy, capacity for empathy in different ways. And I said she had two words. One was empathy, and the other one is oneness. She struggled with words on putting labels to her personal experience, and came up with this term to denote and try to hint at least, the interconnectedness of all existence. And moved by that, the organization that she founded and she leads is called ONE, as an acronym for Organizations of Networks for Empathy. So it's bringing together these powerful ideas, and she's growing a movement that wants to build what we need most in the world.
Here we go. Fantastic. This has been such an inspiring orbit, Zorana, but as we draw our time to a close and prepare to re-enter the Earth's atmosphere, what insight, wisdom, or question would you like to leave with us?
I would like to invite people to think what we mean when we talk about inspiration. This conversation was wonderful, and we live at a time when inspiration is readily available, and we oftentimes find it in many places. And we are talking here about wonder, which is in itself a powerful experience that can bring about something profound as a realization about our sense of self, about our place in the world. And we can feel inspired and moved. My question is, what happens next? Do we stay with that feeling and let it be a feeling, and let it be like attending a motivational talk that feels motivational for those 15 minutes afterwards? But we also have to acknowledge that we live in a world that is ruled by many pressures, many demands of our time, of our attention, and these demands can drown our emotional experiences, and we can disregard those amazing moments of insight or spark because of all the other things that are happening. And my invitation is to choose to pause, not be immediately overtaken by the pressures that are real. I'm not denying those pressures. They are real and we have to attend to them. But just insert the pause and be mindful of how we can make some more conscious choices about what we can do and how we use and channel those powerful experiences we have, so that they're not just feelings. We have agency and we can channel them into meaningful action.
So good. That's a great way of ending. Zorana, this has been great. Thank you so much again for helping us to re-wonder and for sharing your stories of hopefulness. You are brilliant, and have a great Christmas.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Steve.
I hope you enjoyed this Orbit with Zorana. The transcript, together with all the organisational links, can be found on Zorana's episode page at ourwonder.space. Finally, I want to draw your attention to a new networking platform that we have launched to enable everyone to engage with our fifth question on Wonderspace. A networking platform called Someone Else that connects us through the way that we share hopeful stories about others. Go to someoneelse.space, create a simple profile and upload your story. This is the last orbit before our Christmas reset, and I want to thank Wonderspace designer and producer Dan Potter for all his amazing work this year. Thanks also to Andrew Howley at Ask Nature for again creating so many inspiring moments of wonder. We look forward to releasing more Wonderspace orbits in 2025. But in the meantime, have a great Christmas and a